Thank you. All right, we're going to get started now. Um, Felina will handle the waiting room. All right, welcome everybody to Beyond the Two-Party Trap. I'm Samantha, and I'll be guiding us through the core values of the Green Party and how we distinguish ourselves from the Democrats, the authoritarian left, and even well-meaning allies who don't share our foundation. Little bit about me. My path to the Green Party began in 2007. I had never identified with, let alone voted for, Democrats or Republicans. That same year, my husband and I began investigating the truth behind the Church of Scientology. What we found led us to join a nationwide protest against their abuses, including the imprisonment of members, blackmail, and extortion. It was also in 2007 that I learned about Rachel Corrie, the American activist who was killed by the Israeli military in occupied Palestine. Her story lit a fire in us both. I immediately began organizing actions in South Florida to raise awareness about the occupation and the injustices Palestinians face. By 2011, I was organizing marches against Monsanto, mobilizing against corporate control of our food systems. Then in 2016, I discovered Jill Stein, a presidential candidate who was not only willing to criticize Israel's apartheid regime, but who carried a platform that resonated deeply with my values. She was with the Green Party. I didn't hesitate. I jumped in as a volunteer for her campaign. In 2023, after Jill announced her run for president again, Jay Weeds and I began streaming nightly to help organize for the Green Party and get people out in the streets, building the movement from the bottom up. By 2024, I was serving as regional coordinator for the Steinwear campaign across Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. And today I serve as secretary of the Green Party of Colorado. Now, before we jump into modern strategy, let's take a moment to ground ourselves in history. Some of you might be wondering why we're giving a lesson on green values to a room full of Green Party members. That's a fair question, but after becoming more deeply involved in the party, I realized that we have a growing number of new Greens who join after every election cycle and are never really taught what we stand for. And just as importantly, we have longtime Greens who have never fully absorbed our foundational values or have lost sight of them altogether. The Green Party didn't come out of nowhere. It was born out of a deep frustration with the failures of both capitalist liberalism and authoritarian socialism. People like Murray Bookchin were foundational in shaping this vision. People like Murray Bookchin were foundational in shaping this vision. Bookchin, a lifelong anarchist and theorist of libertarian municipalism, emphasized the need for a politics rooted in ecology, direct democracy, and egalitarianism. He saw clearly that neither capitalism nor centralized socialism could deliver true freedom, justice, or sustainability. The early movement was a response to this, an attempt to create something new. Not a top-down party of ideology, but a bottom-up movement based on values, participation, and real-world community power. Let me introduce my co-presenters. Dominic, who will talk about building our strength through worker alliances rooted in syndicalism and libertarian socialism, and Jay Weeds, who will talk about protecting our party's identity from infiltration. So I want to ask you guys to fill out this poll. That's not the right one. Um, I would like to, I think all of us would like to know what brought you to the Green Party. Um, let's talk about what it actually means to be green. Okay. We are not a single issue environmental party. We are a values-based movement rooted in history, in principle, and in real-world action. The 4 pillars and the 10 key values of the Green Party aren't just guidelines, they're a compass for political transformation. Okay, let's start with the 4 pillars. Number 1, ecological wisdom. Our policies are rooted in the understanding that we are part of the earth, not above it. Think of the resistance at Standing Rock, where water protectors reminded the world that water is life. That's ecological wisdom in action. Number 2, social justice. From the civil rights movement to the fight for trans rights today, we stand for those confronting systemic oppression. Greens support reparations, prison abolition, and a full LGBTQIA+ equity because justice must be intersectional. Number 3, grassroots democracy. Unlike parties run by lobbyists and donors, we believe power should flow from the bottom up. The Zapatista movement in Chiapas, Mexico, is a global example of decentralized community-led governance. a model we admire to seek and reflect locally. Number 4, nonviolence. We reject militarism, empire, and the violence of poverty and environmental collapse. Green politics supports diplomacy, disarmament, and peace, because a just world can't be built with bombs. Now we're going to look at our, we're going to go deeper into our 10 key values, which expand and ground these pillars in political terms. With your permission, I'm going to share some examples of each of these as we look at each of them. So, grassroots democracy, not just voting every few years. We're talking about participatory budgeting, citizens' assemblies, and community control. Think Jackson, Mississippi's Cooperation Jackson model. And there's several examples of what this co-op in Jackson has accomplished, and they're growing even more. Number 2, social justice and equal opportunity. This means universal health care, housing as a human right, and the ending of structural racism. Policies like Medicare for All and abolishing ICE reflect these values. Number 3, ecological wisdom. We go beyond recycling. We call for regenerative agriculture, public control of energy, and a transition away from fossil fuels. The original Green New Deal came from the Green Party, not the Democrats. Number 4, nonviolence. Greens have opposed every U.S. war since our founding. We stood against the Iraq War, against drone strikes, and against arming apartheid states. Decentralization, local economies, local governance, and local control. This prevents authoritarianism and builds resilience. It's why Greens push for public banking and community land trusts. Number 6, community-based economics. From food co-ops to worker-owned businesses, we believe the economy should serve people, not profit. We did have some references to some great organizations. I don't know if Dominic's here and he could chime in. There was a cooperation that I recently learned about from Dominic in Venezuela. Dominic, what was the name of that?
Seco se sola.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I knew I wasn't going to be able to pronounce it, so we can think of these cooperations or even Black-led co-ops in Detroit. There's a lot of successful ones there. Number 7 is feminism and gender equity. Reproductive rights, gender-affirming care, and leadership for women and non-binary people. We don't compromise on bodily autonomy or equity. Then we have respect for diversity. Culturally, racially, politically, diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. This means standing up for immigrants, indigenous sovereignty, and religious freedom. Personal and global responsibility. We hold ourselves accountable from the local compost bin to the global climate treaties. We walk our talk. And finally, number 10, future focus and sustainability. We plan not for the next quarter, but for the next generation. That means investing in education, banning toxic chemicals, and leaving a livable planet behind. These values are not just philosophy, they're action. They are how we govern, they are how we run our campaigns, and they are how we show up in communities. Being green isn't a brand, it's a commitment to a different kind of world and a different kind of politics. With that foundation laid, I'm going to pass the mic over to Dominic. He's going to walk us through how we build real power with workers and unions by showing up in solidarity and organizing with integrity.
Awesome. Thank you, Samantha. Great job. So, hi, everybody. My name is Dominic Lucero. I live in the Bay Area, California, and for the last 16 years, I've been actively involved in the labor movement. Labor has the numbers, infrastructure, the history, and most importantly, the desire for change. With just 5% of organized workers stepping outside of the traditional two-party system, a third major party can be built in the US. However, earning the support comes from consistent solidarity and value-driven organizing. There's really no shortcut to this. Workers recognize genuine assistance whenever they encounter it. As somebody who is focused on internal union organizing to build genuine grassroots movements within my own labor organization, I wanted to offer a perspective on what truly resonates with workers who feel that they have no political home. My journey began in a construction trade union in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, after numerous failed attempts to join the workforce at the age of 21. By the mid 2000s, it became evident that the union had a predominantly Democratic Party affiliation. There was a nostalgic belief that Democrats represented the legacy of the FDR era when workers experienced victories, despite the ongoing dismantling of the working class by both major political parties. I witnessed the impact of corporate-friendly appointments to the National Labor Relations Board during the Bush administration. These actions attempted to make federal project labor agreements illegal to favor big business. Likewise, during the Obama era, the discouragement of building fossil fuel power plants occurred without a plan for displaced workers, creating disillusionment and resentment among union construction workers that it could have been easily avoided. This has continued with the Trump administration's corrosive neoliberal policies and Biden breaking strikes. Worker confidence has been betrayed, leading many to vote against their own best interests in 2016, 2020, and in 2024. And the blame does not rest solely on elected officials. The trust that union members placed in their leadership has also significantly contributed to the decline of the labor movement in this country. After serving as a union representative for the last 6 years, where I've lobbied for both state and federal levels, I've seen how unions have been corrupted into ineffective organizations that serve capitalist interests, with their political action committees perpetuating these endless cycles constantly. Workers are tired of being used for photo opportunities during election time and then let down by policies that we were never consulted about. There's a growing movement for workers to reclaim their power and govern themselves once again, and this is where workers have to be met. Viewing the history of labor in this country reveals that lasting change requires building networks within working class structures. The class of the global imperial machine is with the workers. As the organizer Joseph Eder once stated, they have nothing to do but to fold their arms and the world will stop. The workers are more powerful with their hands in their pockets than all the property of the capitalist. For any party to evolve into a foundational mass movement, it must engage directly with this segment of the population, not just the leaders, but more especially the members themselves, because it is the members who build the union, not their leaders. When I refer to the working class, I mean every single wage earner, everyone who is reliant on the labor system to generate wealth for others. This perspective goes beyond the stereotype of the traditional manual labor, like me. It includes all of us who have been excluded from democracy in the environments where we spend most of our waking hours. Any organizer knows that the heart of movement building starts with one-on-one conversations. So we must show up not just with words, but also with solidarity for these workers. Platforms that align with the rich tradition of organized labor movements advocate for things like fair wages, publicly owned utilities that would level the field and public works for trades who actually live locally in these communities, a just transition for fossil fuel workers, and most importantly, worker ownership. We cannot assume that workers are aware of these potential alignments. These discussions have to be approached with humility. Workers need to be listened to and shown why a party can serve as their political home, especially as so many people are disillusioned with the current two-party system. Strong working class consciousness has roots that go back into this country over 200 years. The 19th century labor movement aimed for fundamental change, seeking to abolish the wage system and create a just and equitable society. The industrial workers of the world continued this tradition into the 20th century, but anti-syndicalist laws, which prohibited the worker ownership movement, and the Espionage Act silenced their efforts. So this radical spirit still exists in workers today. The dream of decentralization and economic democracy, like so many other movements, has been co-opted into small wage increases in exchange for worker silence and compliance with a political establishment that we're all excluded from. As Mother Jones once critiqued the labor movement in 1925, the rank and file have let their servants become their masters and dictators. The workers have now to fight not alone their exploiters, but likewise their own leaders, who often betray them, who sell them out, who put their own political advancement ahead of that of the working masses, who make their rank and file political pawns. So workers, and most people especially, are tired and desperately need change. But the potential for radical transformation lies within every worker who punches a clock, who finishes a shift, or is just one paycheck away from losing everything. So how do we bring about this change? After generations of disappointment, it is essential to rebuild the workers' confidence. They need to know that you understand and you share in their struggles. To earn that confidence, stand on the picket line, attend union barbecues even when there's no immediate need, and make yourself available to meet with local rank and file committees, which are vital to fostering good unionism. Establishing a labor caucus can create a space for open discussions on policy, an area where most workers actually feel they're left out of the conversations. Furthermore, attending workshops held by organizations like Labor Notes and distributing pamphlets that illustrate how you can support workers is especially crucial. It's also important to reach out to local rank and file political action committees and encourage these rank and file members to advocate for candidates outside of the traditional two-party system. You have to break that stranglehold from union leadership and return that power back to the workers themselves. I cover 61 counties for my union, and I see a pressing need for alternative options within building trades councils and central labor councils. So anybody who's running for office, even if you think you don't align with those values, at least sit down, at least make that phone call and ask if you could sit down at the table and talk with people. If workers are approached with integrity and a message that's rooted in anti-authoritarian, pro-worker, and socialist libertarian values, powerful allies will be found among rank and file members of labor movements who are just as equally tired of being let down by the two-party system as the rest of us. So I'll pass it over to Jay Weeds, who's going to speak with us on how to protect values from infiltration, co-option, and authoritarian tendencies that threaten to undermine decentralization and democratic integrity. So thanks for having me.
Hello, my name is Jay Weeds. It's an honor to be here with you today, and I want to start with something honest. I didn't come up through academia. I wasn't groomed by a party machine or polished by a nonprofit. I came up through experience, through struggle, through organizing, through refusing to back down when the system said I should. I'm not here to chase clout. I'm here because I've watched this party, our party, get pulled off track by people who don't understand where it came from, or worse, are trying to reshape it into something it was never meant to be. And I'm not willing to let that happen quietly. Because here's the truth. The Green Party isn't a rehab clinic for Democrats, a graveyard for dead-end Marxists, or a vanity project for liberal influencers looking to stay relevant. It's not a personality cult, a therapy circle, or a halfway house for authoritarianism in a green coat of paint. This movement was born in the green quadrant, the libertarian left, mutualism, radical ecology, direct democracy, horizontal power. It's the quadrant they tried to erase after Bakunin was forced out of the First International. And it remains the only political space that refuses to bow to any empire, capitalist or communist. So let's set the terms. We're here to build a decentralized, bottom-up, revolutionary movement, one rooted in socialist libertarianism. No bosses, no billionaires, no bureaucrats playing God. First, know what we are and what we're not. If you think libertarian means capitalist or socialist means top-down command economy, you've already been compromised. This is the quadrant that rejects both Wall Street and party elites. It's not the Marxist left. It's not the progressive left. And it sure as hell isn't the Democrats' discarded baggage train. Second, decentralization isn't a slogan, it's self-defense. Authoritarians thrive on hierarchy. They need ladders to climb, committees to hijack, bylaws to bend. That's why we build horizontally. Shared power, rotating roles, no one above the group. If someone starts building a vanguard, dismantle it. If one person is making the calls, you've already lost. Third, call out the red wash. Some arrive waving red flags, preaching revolution, then push purges, dogma, and control. They quote Marx and bury Bakunin. They scream anti-capitalism while carving out their own little kingdoms. Watch for it. They'll say centralization is just temporary. That's how it always starts. That's how every revolution gets stolen. Fourth, guard the culture. We're built on transparency, not secrecy. On consensus, not coercion. If someone's forcing votes, silencing dissent, or shutting down discussion, that's not green. That's infiltration. And don't get fooled by identity washing. Zionists hide behind Judaism. Statists hide behind socialism. Liberals hide behind progress. You check someone's politics by how they treat power, not by the labels they wear. Fifth and final, teach the quadrant. Political education isn't optional. It's armor. Every member should know where they stand on the political compass. If someone can't tell the difference between authoritarian and libertarian socialism, that's not just confusion, it's vulnerability. And vulnerability gets exploited fast. We don't gatekeep by degrees, but we do defend the mission, and that mission is full liberation from all top-down control. If we don't protect this quadrant, no one will. Not the media, not academia, not the nonprofits. It's on us. So if you want to stop infiltration, start with education, build with structure, and finish with accountability. And when someone tries to hijack this party, don't whisper. Call it out, loud, public, with receipts. We're not here to build a greener empire. We're here to burn the whole pyramid down and build something horizontal in its place. Green quadrant strong.
All right, guys, I am going to screen share a video presentation made by Jay Weeds real quick.
Lantern Spectrum, and the Political Compass. This project maps 4 core Lantern Core colors from DC Comics lore, green, red, blue, and yellow, onto the 4 quadrants of the political compass. But instead of using the distorted American framework, we draw from the global model defined by politicalcompass.org and expanded by the ratchet effect, which exposes the elite control that erases true bottom-up politics. Each lantern color symbolizes the core emotional driver of a political quadrant, revealing how ideology and emotion intertwine to shape systems of control or liberation. Green Lantern, willpower, libertarian left quadrant, green quadrant, emotion, willpower, conscious choice, resistance to control, meaning the green quadrant is rooted in mutual aid, cooperative struggle, and the rejection of both economic hierarchy and state domination. It isn't driven by fear or rage, it's powered by active, intentional will to build solidarity and freedom. This is the only quadrant where real revolution happens. It resists both wings of the ratchet and embraces decentralized liberation. It's the quadrant of anarchists, syndicalists, libertarian socialists, and mutualists. Lantern comparison. Green lanterns resist all other emotional forces. Likewise, those in the green quadrant resist fear, yellow, rage, red, and blind hope, blue, by grounding action in willpower and community. Red lantern, rage, authoritarian left quadrant, red quadrant, emotion, rage, justified but manipulated, meaning rage against injustice can inspire resistance, but in this quadrant, it's captured and channeled into state control. Stalinism, Maoism, and other forms of authoritarian socialism rise here, where rage is used to justify centralized power. Red is where revolutionary anger gets hijacked. The rage is real, but it becomes empire in red paint. This is where the state pretends to speak for the people while silencing them. Lantern comparison. Red lanterns are consumed by fury and often lose control. So too with authoritarian leftists, driven by real grievances but co-opted into new forms of hierarchy. Blue lantern, hope, authoritarian right quadrant, blue quadrant, emotion, hope, idealistic, sincere, but easily exploited, meaning the blue quadrant of the political compass represents authoritarian right-wing politics, governments, parties, and ideologies that mix top-down control with capitalist or nationalist justifications. Both Republicans and Democrats in the US sit in this space, claiming to stand for order, security, or tradition, while ultimately serving elite interests through hierarchy. This is where hope gets twisted into obedience. People believe they're doing the right thing, but the systems they support throw the vulnerable under the bus. Blue is loyalty without truth. It's the moral confusion of patriotic liberals and religious conservatives who cling to structure, thinking it protects them, even as it crushes others. Lantern comparison. Blue lanterns believe in others, but in this quadrant, that belief is weaponized. Blue becomes blind trust in power, faith in authority, institutions over liberation. It feels righteous, but it functions as a gatekeeper of the ratchet. Yellow lantern, fear, libertarian right quadrant, yellow quadrant, emotion, fear, internalized and misdirected, meaning the yellow quadrant represents the libertarian right, where distrust of the state often gets rerouted into fear-driven ideologies like market fundamentalism, xenophobia, and conspiratorial individualism. It's where fear doesn't just control people from above, it convinces people to reject solidarity altogether, isolating them and weaponizing freedom into fragmentation. This is the quadrant of selfish libertarians, Silicon Valley neo-feudalists, crypto kings, and survivalist echo chambers. Freedom gets hollowed out into competition, and fear of collectivism overrides any sense of shared responsibility. Lantern comparison. Yellow lanterns embody fear, and in this quadrant, fear isn't just imposed, it's internalized. It becomes a worldview of mistrust, separation, and dominance masked as liberty. Where does your light shine? Each lantern shines with the emotion that drives their quadrant: willpower, rage, hope, or fear. But real-world politics isn't about comic books. It's about where you stand when power demands obedience, when injustice fuels control, and when fear drowns out freedom. Are you driven by control, by conformity, by fury, or by the conscious will to build something better? Find your quadrant. Take the test, politicalcompass.org. And once you know where you are, choose what kind of lantern you want to be, because the world doesn't need more pawns of the ratchet. It needs light, real light, from below, from within, from the will to resist.
All right, guys, I am back. Thank you, Jay Weeds, for your talk and your presentation. Also, Dominic, thank you for your talk earlier. We've covered a lot today: our values, our history, our distinction from other political movements, and the importance of labor alliances and protecting our identity from infiltration. So we're going to bring it all home. If there's one thing I want everyone to leave with today, it's this: The Green Party is not a reaction. It's not a temporary protest. It's a radical, intentional alternative to a system that has failed people and planet alike. We are the political home for people who believe in community over control, people over profit, and ecosystems over empires. But if we want to grow, really grow, we have to stay grounded in our values. We have to build real relationships in our communities and resist every attempt to dilute what makes us different. So here's what we can do next. First, take the political compass test. Learn where you stand. Number 2, join a local green working group or campaign. Don't just watch, participate. Start a conversation with someone you know who's politically homeless. You might be their bridge to something real. Support labor efforts and coalition building wherever you are. Show up and show that we are serious about workers' rights. Build mutual aid networks. Show your community what the Green Party is really about. And organize action. We shouldn't just be joining protests, we should be leading them. The two-party system is a trap, but we're not getting out of it. We're building something better together. I want to thank you all for being here, and I want to open the floor for conversation, questions. So if anybody would like to, all right, Adam.
All right. I've been disabled my whole life. And the thing is I have, how do I put it? Basically, like I've heard a lot of people who are Democrats that are like, oh, the Democrat Party cares about, disability and accessibility and that. But yet I've noticed that over the years, as I've left the Democrat Party, that I've had people tell me before that the Green Party really doesn't care about disability, but it would be nice to know what things the Green Party does care about disability and accessibility as well, because if you know what I'm saying, over, I guess.
Yeah, so I think it's hard to point out very specific examples of how the Green Party cares about disability, but I think one of the major things for me, how I would relate to this is I think being inclusionary is really important with the Green Party. When we have things like even this A&M, for example, we actually have a vote coming up in the national committee that would determine whether we should keep our meetings virtual or move them to in-person meetings. And I'll say that for the most part, most national delegates understand that keeping these meetings, these conventions and meetings virtual, it helps include everybody. Because not only do we have people who have obligations and responsibilities, they might have jobs they can't take time off of. Maybe they're a caretaker, or maybe they are disabled and they can't, and I don't mean to exclude, poverty, because I think a lot of us are poor and wouldn't be able to afford flying across the country for a meeting. But just to look at this about disabled persons is a lot of people aren't able to travel. So they would be excluded from these meetings. They would be excluded from conversations with other Green Party voters and delegates. And I think that has to expand beyond just meetings and workshops, right? We need to be including people in everything we do. We do have, I believe we have a disability caucus, Felina, don't we? Has that formed?
It never got accredited. It needed to be accredited, but for a long time, it definitely needed to be accredited before, because a lot of the issues the elders caucus was addressing was part of the disability issue, and but
Okay.
I didn't want to associate it like, automatically
Yeah.
disability because you're elder, but they're still fighting the same issue. So yeah, I do think it needs to take precedent when it comes to which caucuses to form. It definitely needs to be disability first.
Yeah, and I think that that's the
Well,
best way. I think that's the best way that we handle it, Adam, is we do need to get that caucus accredited, because people who are dealing with the disabilities are the best to make the decisions and bring forth the issues and platforms and policies that the Green Party should be focusing on for disabled persons. Um,
well,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, because like I know that anyone, no matter who you are, whether you're whether you're white, black, part of the LGBTQI plus community, you're younger, you're older, anyone can end up with a disability at any point in time in their life. And, like for me, for example, like these virtual meetings are actually harder for me to actually participate in, and having more hybrid meetings where people can still be virtual as well as in person, because for me it's much more difficult versus some people are really, you know, being virtual is much more accessible to that person, if you know what I'm saying. And being legally blind my whole life, but later on in life having to use a power wheelchair. Do you know what I'm saying? Basically, I guess
Yeah.
Since you brought up, the since you brought up how there's supposed to be a proposal to see if people want to have the meetings virtual or in person, and I would
Yeah.
say having it so that both people can participate either in person and or
Yeah.
virtually, it makes it more accessible, because when we make the world accessible for disabled people, we make it accessible for everyone. That same ramp, that same elevator, that same thing that might help a disabled person is still available to help someone that's not disabled either, if you know what I'm saying. Over.
Yeah, I understand. And I think we have a lot of candidates. I think there's one speaking in the chat now. We have a lot of candidates that think we should focus on moving forth to bring policies that help disabled persons. I don't know that I can speak to that on a level of knowing exactly what the Green Party is planning on doing. All right, so we have a lot of hands up, so I'm just gonna go down the line. Nicolanda.
Yes, thank you, Samantha, and thank you, Dominic, and for the presentation. There's so much, and I'll try to keep it concise. The screen has the poll results rather than the gallery, so I wasn't sure my hand was still up. So thank you for calling on me. There's so many points. I'll take the one that's being discussed now. I've been to since I've been a Green for 35 years or 33 years, I've been a delegate. I have flown to 5 or 6 of the national committees and the annual meetings, and it's amazing being able to see people in person. However, I really appreciate, and I just said that this morning to someone, what a gift that I can sit here in the middle of the ocean and be part of this convention. So I feel that the reality is that we all are unique. So different people, someone who has a lot of money doesn't mind to fly different places. Other people can't. There's disability, there's work, there's all kinds of things. And this morning, this is the third workshop I've been in, and I have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 5:30 to participate. And so that's a challenge. In the past, I've missed numerous gatherings. So the workshops. So the information that's being shared, my brain and my insides are full. Yes, there's new 20, 21, 22-year-olds joining the party, and they have all this energy that I don't seem to have as much anymore. And then there's people that have been around for 30, 35 years that have an institutional memory, which I see as having been a delegate for 10 years. I watch people saying things and says, oh my, for example, this meeting just now, people are asking, who's this, who's that, who's that? So I just went to the list on the Eventi site. I got the guy who was talking and copied his biography. Samantha, that's what I did with you. So there's a lot of people who don't even know how the site is set up. So again, I could go on and on. I just want to say that there's so much information you all gave. Dominic, your union sharing, I mean, I'm tongue-tied because it was just, again, so brilliant. And what I want to leave maybe is that I've seen that also as a delegate. I totally stand by the 4 pillars and the 10 key values, and yet I disagree with some of our party platforms. So I don't push them. That makes me a minority. And what I learned as a Green early on is you can step aside. There is no comparison to a progressive Democrat, I'm saying that in quotes, and a Green. And so, yes, we're all going to come from where we are, our knowledge, our information, our perspective, our belief systems. And again, thank you for the stimulation, for presenting this. I just, as you can tell, I am quite impressed and appreciative.
Thank you
Over.
so much. Thank you so much, Nicolanda. Keenan.
Yes. Wow. There's a whole lot there, and there's a lot of disagreement. I am a former candidate, 2018 in North Carolina. I came into this party looking for building working class power. And I'm not afraid of the working class having power. And the thing is, I think there's a lot of stuff that gets mixed up in here with so-called authoritarian left. I hear this from in the Democratic Party. I have never been part of either of the two-party system, specifically because all that I ever hear from them is that because I want the working class to be in power, that means that I'm an authoritarian communist. So I think that there's some, really off-putting stuff here that supposedly I would be considered an infiltrator by a bunch of what I just heard. And I'm a former candidate. I got, was one of the first ones in North Carolina to run as a Green. Only got 3.5% of the vote, but that's more than a number of our candidates have gotten. And I'm just really off put that from some of what I've heard here, I would be considered by some people here an infiltrator. Again, I can get that at the Democratic Party. I can get that from them. I want to also point out the mention of Bookchin. Bookchin, Murray Bookchin is considered to be a influence on the Kurdistan Workers' Party in Syria. Now, just in terms of, we can talk about how, good ideas sound all day long. And I just want to point out, though, that the United States military presently occupies a third of Syria, and they've used an organization in part. Now it's a difficult situation to be in, but nonetheless, in many ways, they have used Murray Bookchin's ideas as a way, they've exploited those ideas as a way of effectively occupying 1/3 of Syria. So I just want to enter some of that all into the conversation, as well as the whole concept of why we are supposed to think what's been identified as so-called Stalinism is to have implemented it was a basis, the concept that Khrushchev put across of the whole idea that there was some sort of cult of personality around Stalin was simply a lie that was created in order to open up trade with the United States, which then resulted in privatizations, which then resulted in the draining of the Aral Sea. That was not a product of collectivized agriculture. Initial irrigation was begun under collectivized agriculture, but it was not at the scale that was done according to what the United States expected to get out of exploiting a cotton deal with the Soviet Union. That had everything to do with de-Stalinization, not Stalinism. There's no such thing really as Stalinism. That's a falsehood. And all that this has ever been intended to do was to be used by NATO as a way of enforcing U.S. imperialism around the world and interrupting international working class solidarity, real working class solidarity, and bringing the working class into power. Please do not refer to me as an authoritarian leftist. Over.
Okay, so I think there's a lot of communication here that's been misinterpreted and things are getting convoluted because we advocate for worker control. We advocate for direct democracy. We advocate for the workers owning the means of production. We don't even have time to get into a long-winded debate of authoritarian versus libertarian socialism in here and go over history and, atrocities. That's just, we don't have time for that. No one's accusing you of being an infiltrator. If you're advocating for everyone, every individual to have liberty and freedom and everybody to have equal direct democracy, and you're advocating for the workers to have control, and everybody to have the means to live, to have a life, then you're probably not an authoritarian socialist. But I think this is probably a conversation we can have down the road somewhere else, and we just don't have time for it here, especially with us having hands up still. But Dave, go ahead.
Can you
You're
hear me?
muted, Dave.
Thanks, Nick. Can you hear me? Okay. Dave Mullick's from Hawaii. Haven't been involved in the Green Party for too long. I've been an independent for like ever. Both parties are just ridiculous. I've been a grassroots organizer for 60 years. I'm a national delegate, which I'm very disappointed in the national delegation. There's not a whole lot of activity to bring a national campaign together for the Green Party. I'm glad I finally found my peeps, the organizers here, Samantha and Dominic and Kaden. Thank you for what you said. I think you had a lot of relevant points there. But so how can I hook up with other organizers? I'm so frustrated. We right now are really lucky. This is an incredible opportunity for the Green Party. Both the Democrats and the Republicans have shot themselves in the foot, and people are fleeing both parties in droves. They're workers, and people are searching for a party to represent them. And the Green Party is that party. Our platform is a party that the majority of the people in the country want. But we're not doing a whole lot to organize and bring them in. The DSA did an incredible job. They had a great ground campaign getting the the mayor, their candidate, to win the primary against the incumbent. That was incredible. They started out in 2016 with 6,000 members. Now they've got over 90,000. But they got an incredible ground game. They are on the ground organizing. They're bringing in young people, and they're getting enthusiastic. I'm not seeing any campaign by the Green Party to reach out and bring people in and then have a national campaign to push back against, the BS that, we are the outliers, that we are preventing other candidates from winning because we're in the game and we're stealing their votes and all that crap. There needs to be a national media campaign that can overcome it. And it can be a real simple campaign. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to cost anybody any money. We could all do it together as a team. I put this forward to the national delegates, and I've got nowhere. Nobody. We need to have maybe a monthly meeting to come up with a campaign for all us to work together to come up with how do we want to do this. One of the real simple things is just to make a nice meme. My name's Dave. I joined the Green Party because blah, 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 and put that all over social media. If every Green did that, we would have thousands and thousands of advertising going on why the Green Party is important, why they gave up the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and why being a Green is so important. People from all walks of life just doing that simple thing won't cost anybody any money. I put this forward to the media committee. No one has contacted me the entire time I've been there. I haven't heard from one of them. They said they want volunteers for the media committee. No one has ever contacted me. So I hope that I keep looking for my peeps. I'm an organizer for 60 years in the grassroots. On the ground, got trained by longtime organizers in the 1930s. So peeps, if you're out there, I'm looking for you, man. I want to build this party. I want to make it relevant. And I'm just not finding anybody that's doing it. And so if you're out there and if I can join you wherever you are, and if we can come up with a campaign to work together to build the Green Party, there's some weird pro-war Greens in the national delegate. It's really weird. Anyway, so here I am. Contact me. Let me know what I can do. Am I in the wrong place? Am I a stranger in a strange land? I'm looking for you guys. Here I am.
Now you're absolutely right, Dave. And that's something some Greens, some national delegates don't like about me is I'm very blunt about this, is that I think there is a lot of people, national committee members who just don't participate in any conversation, or when they do, the only participation is they want to express how certain conversations make them uncomfortable. And I do know what you're referring to. It was very strange to me as well when I came into the National Committee and seen that there was some pro-war um people in this party. It was very shocking. But it was also just as shocking to find out we had some Zionists in the party. And so one of the things I think that's really important is, yes, we do need national exposure. And when it comes to like getting through to the everyday person and the everyday voter, or people who used to be voters and they no longer trust the system, is explaining to them and teaching them that they're not aligned with the Democrats or the Republicans. Statistically, most people, if they take the political compass test, they're going to come up in the green. They're going to come up as people who want everyone to have liberty, and they want everyone to have the means to live. And it's quite a spectrum. But I think that it is important that we get more passionate people um, on the national committee, more passionate people into the other committees as well. You have the media committee, you have the congressional committees, there's also the CCC, the coordinated campaign committee. There's a lot of committees out there for passionate people to get involved in, because I feel like we have and this is gonna, people are gonna get offended when I say this. We have people that have been around for a while that have just got so comfortable in us not doing anything more than we're doing. And we're not getting anywhere doing that. So absolutely, Dave, you're right. Dennis.
Hi, me, Dennis. Yes, I know. I've been joined Green Party not too long ago, but I realized I know the Democrats and the Republicans. They seem like they tried make so way to prevent a party from forming. Seems like some pissy party formed and it goes away because their way by tell people not vote for a candidate, but they take away from them, take away from the candidate, Democrat, Republican. So that's why they just they've been power. Also, they make it so in power. Also, they waste states like if they win majority, they win the whole state. Yes, yes. Republic. That's why they've been in power so long. Yeah, we need to break that cycle and no with new parties.
Yeah, so I think it's really about getting through to people, and people understanding that Democrats and Republicans are both authoritarian right wing. Obviously, the majority of Americans think that, Democrats. Thank you. Democrats and Republicans are both authoritarian right wing. And the majority of people in this country don't understand that. And they think, Republicans are the right, Democrats are the left. They don't know that there's things outside of that, or they have been so brainwashed by the duopoly to think that anything outside of the Democrats and Republicans are just people here to spoil elections. So it's really, really important that we get people understanding. And I'm a big proponent of the political compass test, big proponent, because I think a lot of people tend to not realize that American exceptionalism has made it so that we see the political spectrum as a straight line, right? You have the left and the right and the center, and that's not it at all. It's much bigger than that. But Josh, I think, has been waiting.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention what you just talked about, the political compass test when during the Jay Weed's presentation. It seemed like a lot of the chat were confused why Biden and Trump were together, and unfortunately, it just we have to just educate people on why we're actually the real opposition to the party duopoly. Although like I'm not such a big proponent of the political compass test. I do take it and I landed in the green. I like when I talk to people, I like sorry, I made a phone call. I like to I got me this thing. Well, that was the point I wanted to make. Sorry, I gotta stop this phone.
I'm sorry. Did anybody else have their hands up that I didn't call on?
I have my hand up again.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
How did that happen? I was unmuted. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Samantha. Yes, you brought up a couple of points and I heard some other people talking. First of all, and I'm looking at the chat and it's a challenge for me to read the chat and listen what's going on, but that's just where I'm at. So people are saying, oh, I've reached out to the party and nobody's coming back to me. And that I don't get. If they're not coming back to you, you keep on reaching out or you initiate something. It's not a daddy party up top. We're talking about vertical and horizontal. So it's incumbent upon each person. Now, I am not going to support, and I've been, like I said, a Green a long time. I'm not going to support, I've been a candidate. I've been a state chair, county chair. I am not going to support certain platform positions I don't agree with, but I'm not going to go to the Democrats, Republicans, or some other party. I'm a Green, and it's not a dictatorship. So we have a party, multiple people are coming from multiple positions. Samantha, I was a longtime delegate, and you saw that I rarely talk because, yes, the way people talk on the affairs list and the national delegate list, I have a challenge with. There's no reason to be attacking anybody, and yet people think that, like, look, I'm talking really loud because I'm way out here in Hawaii. That we just have thank you for laughing, Hariaksha. So we have and thank you also, Samantha, from smiling, because we have people coming from all different places. I just listened to David Cobb's presentation, and it was incredible. It was an insight that I was not aware of. And yet I've heard in this party, people cut the shit out of him when he ran for president because they wanted to be with Nader. So again, if you have a history, people are coming from different places where they're at. The accusations, if God forbid you don't hold the 100% party line, and those who've been a delegate have seen, we don't run by consensus. We have a vote. So if 2/3 vote for something, that means 1/3 of Greens do not agree with whatever that position is. Well, I'm not going to quit the fucking Green Party because someone doesn't like what my position was. I'm still a Green. And there's no comparison. And I'm out here getting petition signatures, and we've been trying to have this party. We were the first state that had a Green win in a partisan race against a Democrat Republican. People come and go to the party. Is it growing? Is it not growing? Again, what I love is the stimulation that Samantha, you have presented by presenting this. But I do resent, not you, I do resent, it was a bad segue. I do resent when people say, oh, you don't think like I do, and I've been, working for 3,000 years, and I've got the right position on this. So I appreciate whatever anyone does. When I mentioned David Cobb, they're talking about the system we've got. I see candidates that run and you go, what the hell are you running for? You get 1% of the vote or 0.5% of the vote. Well, people stand for office for different reasons. And we're dealing with a system, a country that is so brainwashed that I think, Samantha, you alluded to. I tell people I'm around, quote unquote, Democrats and progressives, quote unquote. There are people I know who are more radical than me who choose to be within the Democrat Party. I'm not going to say you're full of shit. I try to talk to them and say, no, really look at what the Green Party stands for. But, I'm not their daddy. So we take everybody where they're at. And if you find a party that's better than the Green Party, let me know. The complaint, and I'll try to stop at this point, the debate that was going on when a former Socialist Worker Party city council member is running for Congress, and the Green Party split over, oh no, we can't support her because she's not a Green. Oh yes, we need to form coalitions. So that's why I'm so appreciative of Butch, because like Butch says, no, I'm forming coalitions with whomever really stands on the same point that I do. So I think I could go on and on and on, but I appreciate is the stimulation that this discussion offered. And if we could have discussions like this on the Green Party affairs list, Samantha, maybe people like me would have spent more time in discussions. And I do like your perspectives because it stimulates me, whether I agree with you or not, though most of the time I do. Anyway, out. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you again, Nick. And I want to say that I want people to understand I'm not like an isolationist and think that all Greens should be isolationist. We should work with when it comes to building support in our communities, and when it comes to action, we should be building coalitions with people. But I think it's very important to make sure that we have a very dark, deep line, defining line of when it leads into kind of like compromising the party. When it comes to like, hey, we're going to take people who clearly do not align with our values, and we're going to promote them, and they don't even use, the Green Party in name, which we do have a lot of people that have in the past and still do use the Green Party name to run for office, and they're not green. We see it every single election. And so it's just important to make sure that people are aligning with our values and they're not trying to, just destroy our party or take it over or whatever. I think Dennis still had his hands up. If not, Dennis, did you have your hand up?
I
No.
tried to take it down. Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Trump
okay.
did to join the Republicans. Trump is destroying the Republican Party to make.
Well,
That
I don't.
would
I don't
happen.
think. Well, I don't think that Trump destroying the Republican Party really is any of our concern, anyways. But unless anyone else had any other questions, I just want to thank everyone for coming and the great conversation. And I hope that you guys take the time to reach out to your communities, reach out to workers in your community. Also, Jay Weeds has in his profile picture his most recent book that is called The Ratchet Red Wash, and it talks a lot about and has a lot of historic references and great information about the things we went over today. Thank you guys, and I hope to see you at the next A&M.